You've talked about kind of different forms of art. Do you look at cooking as an art or as a craft? Because it goes both ways. A lot of people debate it on certain levels.
Let me make sure I clarify. When I view art versus craft, both go hand in hand. A craft, what I think a lot of people like to put craft in the category is something you do repetitively and you master that craft so that you're produced something that takes a lot of professional and executed really well. Art, in my opinion, can't survive without that skill.
Sure.
So to say that they don't belong with each other is hard for me to believe. I think if I had to define, though, art different from craft is the ability with art, whether it be cooking, singing, a visual form, is you've mastered your craft. But now can you manipulate the situation so you can bring a point across, whether it be a story or your expression.
Right.
But you understand the craft behind it.
Okay, so the craft has to come first. Wow.
I did a sketchbook every year so I can just hone my skills.
Yep.
Hence the craft.
Absolutely. I think that transcends a couple of different creative fields where it's like once that craft is there and once you're comfortable going into it, then it becomes like, okay, now what can I do with this?
Right.
And what situations can I put myself in? I think about the pop-up we did the other day where it was in a field, in the middle of a field on a farm. Yeah. It was like a table and a fire. And we were like, okay, we need to do 9 courses off of that. That, to me, is more fun than taking a line cook job somewhere.
But it's that continual being prepared. You always, like we were talking about mastering your craft.
Sure.
You're always building what your repertoire of how your art is devised, building that vocabulary. So when an opportunity does come up, you are ready and prepared to execute.
Right.
And something that restaurant we did with, it's just like that the opportunity. I was like, I knew the wood, I knew I had to build a base of ink so I can use a different material on top of that to create the final piece. That's what, like, to me, inspiration's about is finding the opportunity and then executing that moment.
I think there's such a huge aspect that goes unspoken with getting that sort of repertoire of yourself in, because I certainly have noticed it quite a bit if you're doing a dinner, like what I did the other weekend. The reason that I was able to come in so like calm, cool, and collected is because I've had so many experiences where things don't go right.
Right.
And when you talk about, getting that knife cover and seeing like, oh, this is wood, I immediately know that I have to put a layer of ink down.
Right.
That comes very similar to, the first time a guest sends a dish back that's cold. And you're like, oh, if I'm doing a hot dish and it's for this many people, I need to start with hot plates.
Yeah.
And all those lessons kind of like accumulate on themselves.
Yeah.
I think that goes very unspoken. But I do agree with you that creativity is a habit, right? You work on it.
Whenever I teach art classes or anything, it's like I tell them, an art piece is really never done. You're always working on it.
Sure.
But you yourself, you're always in ready mode.
Right.
I grew up playing a lot of sports, and so I use a lot of sports analogy. It's like, and they use it it's like full circle. You're building your craft. You're building your skill set.
Yep.
You know what you can do. You know what you can't do. When are you gonna apply those skills? And then that's the beauty of art. When are you gonna know your habits and skill set and twist it on its head?
Sure.
When you're gonna break that.
So that would be an interesting question I would have for you as someone who is doing something in the creative industry, who has experience and the craft is honed, but I'm trying to discover what... So, like, where I'm going with it is I can look at a photo on Instagram without any sort of context, no name, no hashtags, no anything, and I see it and I know that it's yours. Because you have a very signature, feel to what you do.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone like me or anybody who's listening who is working on trying to getting their own voice and getting their own style and their own, so that I can set a plate down and you say that is a Justin Khanna dish?
So let's go back to the 3 things I mentioned with the art, audience, and your artist itself.
Sure.
If you break down the elements of whatever piece you're doing and you can conquer 2 of the 3 aspects that you're aiming for say you found the audience, and then you found the art style that you like, then I think you would be able to put a footprint on the whole.
Got it.
Argument. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
I think with that analogy, the audience is the most crucial and difficult part, though. Mm-hmm. It's like we mentioned with the restaurants or galleries,
Sure.
getting people to come into the place,
Right.
people to hear or visualize or taste.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the hardest things to do. And if you can find that, like I said, I'm very appreciative of it.
Yep.
Then you can actually analyze where you are and how you want to proceed
Right.
to how you want to express your art with your audience.
Sure.
So I think finding the audience is the crucial point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think the menu art is. I found a group of wonderful people who appreciate art.
Yep.
But you don't have to go to a gallery to it.
Exactly.
You're working at a restaurant and you see it. And I think that's what's the fun part about it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the key thing is figuring out the two.
Mm-hmm.
Figuring out how you as an artist meets the audience halfway.
Sure.
And I think that's
a great way to think about it.
The great way, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really, really good way to think about it. What would you like to see from the next generation of chefs?
Ooh, it's tough because I am from a consumer side point.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this is it's funny how our conversation can go in full circle.
Mm-hmm.
One, build your craft.
Yep. Yep.
Like, it's I view it the same thing with food, with art. So if you come out of a dish and if it's not cooked well, it's not seasoned well, it's going to be, you're not going to be starting with a good starter point.
Sure.
It's the same thing like with art. If you're not going to make a good piece with a good composition, good balance to it, then no one's going to look at it right away. Be patient with it. You know, I've been doing art for 30 years. I wish I felt this way when I first started out, but no, it took years and years, and I was a starving artist and I had to get a second job to pay the bills, but I stuck with it.
Yep.
And then eventually, once you have that opportunity like we mentioned before,
Sure.
That is your time to kind of branch out, move the needle.
Right.
Because I think I would hate to see like an artist or someone in the restaurant industry move the needle when their skill sets is not up to par.
Got it.
It's like throwing a high school athlete into a professional football game.
Yeah.
And then they have the opportunity, but they blow out their knee.
Right.
And then they can't play sports anymore. That I would hate for that to happen.
Sure.
To someone who's early in the industry. Build that craft, build that what we talked about, a good group of people that you trust in, that you feel comfortable, because like you probably mentioned, if something pops up, something's going to go wrong.
Yep.
And it's about being prepared, adjusting and stuff like that.
Yep.
Nothing's going to go as smoothly as if you think in your head. That's probably why I think being prepared is the most crucial aspect.
It's fantastic advice.